An intellectual carrot, the mind boggles.
You see? You see? Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 152. I'm Aaron Pollier.
I'm Darlene.
And we have a special guest returning to the show because we are talking about a specific film. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Charles Wilson, and greetings. It's a pleasure to meet you. Since we're recording this on Wednesday, July 27th, I would like to wish Aaron, Darlene, and everybody out there in the listening audience a happy Gary Gygax Day. For those of you who may or may not know, Ernest Gary Gygax was one of the creators of Dungeons and Dragons, and he was born this day in 1938. So sadly, on March 4th, 2008, he left us and entered into that great big basement in the sky. I personally had the opportunity to hear him at talk at Gen Con in the years before his death, but I unfortunately never took the time to meet him and tell him how much his creations meant to me growing up. You know, as they say, the biggest mistake we make in life is that we always think we have time. So let this be a warning to all of you out there. If you have the opportunity to meet one of your heroes at a convention, you better take it while you can. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, that sound of dice rolling, those were my original polyhedrals from the first D&D basic box set that I bought back in 1982 when I was 11 years old.
So I still own my first dice that I used. I even actually, when my the first game master that I ever had for a Dungeons and Dragons game, Mr. Love, Peter Love, he ran it for me, and I had nothing. I didn't have any books, anything like that, and he took me out to a game store and told me which dice I needed to buy, and I bought those dice, and I even brought them to his funeral when he passed away, because he was such a good guy. He was so nice. He influenced me in my writing, my love of fiction, all of that. And I brought it to his funeral because I was like, hey, look, this is a big positive memory. He took the time out to teach me not only gaming, but how to be an imaginer, so to speak. So hey, I get it. Our heroes are important, especially in gaming. So So yeah, we're definitely not going to be releasing this on Gary Gygax Day, unfortunately. But I have actually no idea when this will be released. I haven't really counted out the episodes that we have recorded ahead, or the timing that they're getting released lately, because I know that our friends in Canada at This Week in Geek tend to increase the amount of episodes they release from us in the fall. So whenever that starts, obviously that'll affect the time. But we should talk about the movie that we're actually reviewing today. And hold on. Okay, now I'm ready.
Yeah, we gotta get comfortable.
Get comfortable. It is Destroy All Monsters from 1968. It is released the same year as 2001. Therefore, I must hold it to the same standard.
No, you can't. It's 88 minutes. So it's a lot shorter.
Yeah, so it's like half the length. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so this is a Godzilla film, folks. It's a Godzilla film, and while I love all Godzilla films, including this has issues.
This has issues because it's got too many plots, too many things going on. Not enough monsters, though.
I agree completely. That's actually one of the points in my notes. So this film was actually, originally in Japanese it was titled Charge of the Monsters, Kaiju Shoshingeki. I'm probably slaughtering that pronunciation, but and it was actually meant to be like the last of the Godzilla films. Toho was seeing decreasing box office returns at this point due to their television and other stuff like that. So this would be released like around the. They were like putting this in production, if memory serves. Don't quote me on this, but Godzilla's Revenge came out before this one, and then they did Destroy All Monsters.
Mm-hmm,
So it was like shortly thereafter.
I also know that behind the scenes, they were having a lot of problems with
Some of the costumes.
with the costumes. Yeah, in this, that the only two costumes that were new in this movie were Godzilla and Anguirus for some reason.
There are actually three.
Three, okay.
In Eiji Tsuburaya's book, Master of Monsters, Rodan, Godzilla, and Anguirus were like the three ones that they had to build from scratch.
Okay.
And all the other monsters were they had to do massive repairs on these suits to get them ready for the film.
I had actually read that there's a scene in the movie where I think it's Gorosaurus. He attacks Paris at one point.
But it was supposed to be
It was supposed to be Baragon.
Baragon, and it even in the wording is Baragon.
Yeah, in the voiceover they even call him Baragon, but it's clearly Gorosaurus, and it's because Baragon digs, and in the scene Gorosaurus comes out of the ground, but they didn't want to use Baragon just because his ears were so fragile that pushing out of the set would have likely destroyed the costume.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me if you look at their little fins coming out from his head.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Well, he was being misused in some other films, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's in the Ultraman series, believe it or not. They used the suit for Baragon in Ultraman for like 6 different monsters. And
well, that wouldn't
ahead.
surprise me. Tsuburaya was, or his production company was also working on the Ultraman film or productions.
It's the same thing with like Varan, and Varan is in this as well. Like if
For
you
2
blink,
seconds.
if you blink, you'll miss Varan, and he's like a jumping flying lizard thing. But they reused
with like
his
a horn
costume
right in the middle of his head. So.
Yeah, exactly. And they reused his costume in Ultraman as well, and he was so wrecked that basically they never made any kind of close-ups to him except with stock footage.
Mm-hmm.
But he appears in the background.
Well, they pretty much, Toho at this point pulled out all the stops to, they were figuring this was going to be their last one, their final hurrah. So, they gave Tsuburaya and his crew free license to get pull all the monsters in the Toho library, all the kaiju in the Toho library, and put in as many as possible.
Yes. I had even heard that there was a rumor that they were going to attempt to put in Gamera in this as well, but that deal fell through.
Well, we can get to or get to that a little later when we talk about near the ending of the film about where that would have fit in.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't there also a part where they were using stock footage from the spider, whatever that spider thing was, and has a monster in the background that is something else?
Kamanga, and then there's Kamkurus, like the praying mantis thing.
Oh yeah.
And
from Son of Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dead body of a monster in the background.
Yeah, there's another dead kaiju in the background in that shot, and I forget which one it is, but you can just blink if you miss again, but there's like a dead kaiju.
Okay, now I have to go back and single frame through the fight scenes.
Yeah, it's because it's stock footage from the movie that from where Kumonga is in it, and he's walking in front of a kaiju on the ground.
Well, wasn't it Destroy All Planets where they did an entire Gamera film with stock footage from the other Gamera or earlier Gamera films? Or
I can't remember. I'm so sorry.
I mean, I know they did it with one of them. I just don't remember which name or which film it was.
And I know we haven't gotten into the plot yet, but I have one other thing that it's a blink if you miss it, and
Hold
I
on.
can't.
There was a plot.
Yeah, well, there is.
There's several plots.
There's several of them. Yeah. They just never really cling into one of them. Like, I think there's. Well, anyway, there's one shot where you have all these like army vehicles going out, and I had to pause the movie and show it to Darlene because I'm like, oh my god, I can't remember exactly what's in this film, but I hope we get to see it. And it's the maser cannons. We actually get to see the maser cannons like being deployed onto the field. I always call them lightning guns.
Mm-hmm.
But we never see them used. They're like only in a high shot, like looking down at the battlefield as they're all like crossing the battlefield.
Well, they actually play a big part in the near the end of the film where they're making their attack on the moon base and trying to blast their way through the the force field. I watched the Criterion Collection, the HD restored version on HBO Max, and it visually it was impressive.
Oh yeah.
But near the, I'm not sure if they changed the subtitles at all from the from the earlier 1969 release.
Okay.
But when they had like the little tracked or tank or on the moon, they were calling in the subtitles, they were calling it the maser, or they're firing these cannons, and they're like, fire the maser cannons, and it's like, oh, okay, so it didn't look like the ones on the Earth, but and then the little beam of energy didn't look like the ones on the Earth either. So
there's the handheld gun version of it too, where there are no fuses. They don't believe in fuses in Japan, I guess, because like the power cord is just lights up with fire.
This is coming from a Star Trek.
I know where
they never made any.
Well, yeah, there's never fuses in Starfleet consoles, but they are packed with rocks just in case. I love that. Yeah, I noticed that it seemed like a maser gun, but I was looking forward to seeing like the big trundling tank things on the ground.
Yeah, that was like it had like a radar attached to like or to one of those 1950s zappy devices.
Oh yeah, and you can tell like all the way through this. I should say the one thing I do really like about this movie is I love the miniature work. I really do. I always love seeing these miniatures actually being motorized and moved around. Or
one of the fascinating things that you notice in a lot of the scenes where you've got the miniaturized vehicles, I mean, you can tell they're miniaturized vehicles, just running remote control, but there's some actual weight to them that makes them look a lot more realistic when they're like bouncing up and down on or across the terrain.
I think it's because, well, can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they ended up filming all the miniature stuff, including when they're filming the kaiju, in 72 frames a second. So they slow it down and makes it look weightier. Now, I could be wrong in that, but it would make a lot of sense if they did that for the miniature work.
I'd have to look that up, but you're right. It definitely would make sense.
I also like that they actually combined some of the miniature work with blue screen in this that didn't look that bad in one shot, where like guys get out of the like an APC.
Yep.
Like, okay, that's a blue screen. I get it, but that's not bad. Not for 1968.
The matte paintings were great.
Oh,
too.
crap, yeah. The matte paintings in this movie.
And that's a famous person that did those.
Yeah, this guy he did the matte paintings in this movie of like Mount Fuji. And his matte paintings were... I didn't know that they were a matte painting. That's how good it was. Usually I can tell a matte painting. I honestly thought it was a really detailed photograph that they were just layering on.
At this point in time, I mean, they had a ton of films under their belt. Tsuburai's production team, and I mean, they had access to a very advanced optical printer. I think, if memory serves, the only other one of this type was at the Walt Disney or at the Disney Studios. So, I mean, they had some pretty advanced tech to put this together.
But it definitely was a matte painting. It was hand painted by a guy, because I saw behind the scenes stuff of swimsuit clad bikini ladies coming to the set and hanging out with some of the kaiju, and in front of that matte painting. And it's very clearly a matte painting in those shots, but just the way they filmed it in the movie, it is, A+. So yes, there are things to love about it, but let's talk about the plot, which is the mind-numbing part of it, and then we'll kind of talk about what works and doesn't work overall here. We really begin the movie with like the United Nations Science Committee and an like a dub over narration talking about what's going on, and we learn it's like the far future year of 1999.
Where are the flying cars?
Yeah, there aren't. Well, there kind of is in this, sort of. SY3 is pretty much used as a car all the way through this.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a rocket, though.
There's a base on the moon, and there's space traffic that goes to the moon daily. Okay, so there's lots of rockets being used. Okay, no problem.
There's also another thing in there with well, I got to ask, even in 1999, since when does the United Nations have a space committee or a spaceport?
Well, from what I gather, the writers in this weren't the writers the same guys that wrote the original Godzilla.
That I couldn't tell you.
I know that they did a lot of work in Godzilla. I know that the director is the original director of Godzilla. That's Ishiro Honda.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that at least the writers and Honda, he said he was big on science and the nations of the world coming together for peace. So he liked putting in UN stuff that was like overarching whatever, to keep world peace. I do remember reading that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, since when does the UN have that? Not really, but
we've always dreamed of it having that.
Yeah, that kind of like overarching, for all humanity. That would be really cool.
I don't know, because in the about halfway during the movie, or well, actually about halfway during the movie, when there's an attack on the one of the professors or one of the scientists who's been taken over by the aliens, it's like they're going to send the UN secret police after her to get him and defend him, and it's like, wait a minute, when does the UN having a secret police? I'm starting to get a little nervous here.
Yeah,
all in ugly brown suits.
Weren't they in brown suits? Yeah,
they were in ugly brown suits.
Was that the UN's secret police?
Yes.
See,
that's what they said in the subtitles of the Criterion Collection restoration.
See, I thought those were like Japanese Secret Service or something.
I got it as the United Nations.
Well, that's a little menacing.
But I was like, this is ugly brown suit.
And they were completely incompetent, too. That's the problem. Like, they were just...
Well, maybe they were UN.
I mean, yeah, maybe they were. They were incompetent. But, so, we actually watched the launch of Rocket SY-3 as the credits play. And, again, the model work in this is great. But SY-3, I think it's also its name is also Moonlight.
Moonlight, yes. That's the other...
it's a very cool model. It's a uniquely made model. I really like it.
But wasn't it supposed to be taken like from some of the designs of the
F-111?
F-111.
It was based on F-111 variable geometry wing aircraft. Yeah.
Yeah, my uncle actually had a hand in designing the electrical system for that plane.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, in Sue Brey's book, it says some of the elements was from the They mentioned the Grumman F-14 Tomcats sweepback wings, as well as the NASA orbital reentry vehicles.
Okay.
So
okay, I can see that.
Yeah. So they had like a lot of really cool influences on that ship design. So, and if you've do you remember seeing Manda? They're the little China or the Asian themed or dragon. It looks like a long snake with little arms. He actually showed up in a film. I believe it. Again, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was like Space Battleship Atragon.
Okay.
And you actually see him again in Godzilla Final Wars in the 2000s. So, just a nice little side reference there if you actually want to look and see, because like the Battleship Atragon's design was actually pretty cool in and of itself.
Okay.
So
no, I mean I see, after watching this, I wanted to I want to get a hold of all of the Godzilla films to watch, because honestly I think they can only go up from here plot wise. I know that's awful because I actually like the monster stuff in this. But like plot wise, I know the other Godzilla films are better than this, right, Darlene?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, but yeah, I can look back and remember these things. This plot is ridiculous.
It's also how you view things from a child to adult.
Yes. I know they're all silly, but
I have to counterpoint with I believe it was Godzilla versus Monster Zero, when Godzilla is on the moon. And he's jumping up and dancing, and then he sits down and throws his atomic breath and starts flying back to Earth.
Yeah, and he's all curled up and flying back to Earth like with a jet. Is that the one? Well, no. Which is the one where he like does the tail sliding jump kick? I can't remember that one.
I can't remember which one that one is, but I remember the Him sliding through with his tail.
Yeah.
I want to say Godzilla versus Gigan, but again, don't quote me on that.
It could be Gigan. It could be. I think it's the one where it's the guy that has like spikes for arms.
Yeah, that's Gigan.
Yeah, Gigan. Yeah, that's the one.
One of the things,
but that wouldn't be until like 1972.
One of the things.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Apologies, Darlene. Or 77.
Okay.
It was here in the States in 77.
What were you going to say?
One of the things that now I've lost my thought. Wow.
Okay, that's okay. We can come back to this. We're still kind of in this. Oh, go ahead.
I remember. The little kid Godzilla is in this.
Oh, or Manila or Mina or.
And what was interesting was the podcast that we were watching, the YouTube thing about it, is that Japanese liked him, but America hated him.
Yes. that he was included in the movie, and they thought they were going to edit him out at some point for the American release because Americans just hated like Junior. That's all I remember his name as. That's just Godzilla Junior.
It's Manila.
Yeah, it's Manila.
So,
like mini Godzilla. That's how you remember it. Well, anyway, so we're still like in this like narration. We learned that there's been like an underwater base that's been established to study marine life, and that all monsters have been collected and put onto an island called Monsterland. Now, I actually had confusion about this because I'm like, don't they mean Monster Island? But believe it or not, that is a different thing. That is not Monster Island in this. It is Monsterland. Like it needs to have letters up on the side of the mountain that's on it that says Monsterland.
Something I wasn't clear about. Was Monsterland near Iwo Jima, and the spaceport was right by there or as well? Or
I think Monsterland was supposed to be somewhat close to the Japanese mainland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Agasawa Island, Darlene has written down in her notes. Who knows where that is. I don't know. I thought it was close to the Japanese main islands.
Mm-hmm.
So, but all the monsters have been put there, and we're reintroduced to a lot of the monsters: Godzilla, Rodan, Anguirus, Mothra in larval form. And I'm a little surprised we actually don't get to see Mothra as a moth in this.
Yeah.
We are also introduced to
but this is the
Gorosaurus, yeah.
If you go by the chronological order, this would be the fourth Mothra?
It might be a third Mothra. Because they time jump ahead by like 30 years. And I don't remember where chronologically the other Mothra movies are compared to this. But I think it might be third generation Mothra. Yeah, this is like second generation Godzilla, right?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, Godzilla dies in the first movie from the oxygen destroyer. God, we're getting into the weeds here now. And there's like a second Godzilla that's born, and I think this might be the same Godzilla that's in Godzilla Raids Again, right?
I believe so. I mean, it definitely wasn't the same suit, but
no, yeah, definitely not the same suit.
Four suits,
but you know, canon in the Godzilla films is very blurry anyway. Mm-hmm. Some movies ignore movies that have happened beforehand. Some movies specifically reference others. I don't know. Anyway, they're all the monsters are basically confined on this island by devices that make them want to stay. And it's either that there's tons of food there, so they don't really care about leaving. Like Rodan just eats whales.
A dolphin.
Like dolphins or whales or something.
Goes down and gets a dolphin.
If you figure out if you look at the scale of Rodan versus the scale of that dolphin, that was a huge dolphin.
I was going to say it's a whale.
Yeah, but it was definitely shaped like a dolphin.
Sure. Yeah. But they're just doing their best. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about this island. This is what would have made this movie actually cool is if this was Jurassic Park. That
would have been a really nice reference.
It would have been really cool. I mean, obviously, this is way before Jurassic Park was even written by Michael Crichton, but
was it?
Yeah, way before. But if like you had an idea about that, hey, we're here not just monitoring the kaiju, but we're here studying them and doing biological research on them, and you don't have like dumb aliens in this. By the way, spoilers, there's aliens that are actually like rock slugs. It gets weird.
Yeah,
but
we don't want to say it's aliens, but it was aliens.
It was aliens. And if they would have like just had like some corporate douchebag run in and say, hey, I'm going to release this crazy kaiju that you have now developed that is like, based on Gorosaurus, and he starts rampaging through, New York City or something like that. Hey,
Godzilla's the one that goes rampaging through New York.
He does, and Godzilla shows his anti-authoritarian stance by nuking the UN building in this.
Yes, and he was taller than the building.
Yeah, they get the scale weird.
Yeah, they also get the time or the time jumps weird because the next time we see Godzilla attacking something after he's supposed to be in New York, and next thing you know, he's in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, and he's wrecking stuff there.
Yeah.
But we actually get to see. Let's go back to the plot. The plot in large quotes. There's a big control room that's like underground on this island, and I guess some of the controllers there that are like just monitoring the kaiju are watching Manila. Like he is front and center, like this little cute kaiju thing just bouncing around the island. Yeah, he's on the center screen. They're just enjoying watching this guy.
I don't like him.
I don't care.
He just wants a friend.
So we end up having, and I don't know these characters' names. I apologize. Chuck, you can always go, hey, look, this is the character's name. But we have a woman on the island research facility that gets a video call from the moon. And I know that is actually the captain of Moonlight that calls. And that is Captain Yamabe. Katsuo is his first name. He's the captain of the SY3.
Okay, let's just go with captain.
And he says that he thinks there's that there might be monsters up on the moon too, and that's dropped later on.
Yes, it is.
It's just dropped. Like, why are you going to bring it up? But the island base has some problems, and the control room ends up getting gassed.
And so does the
all the kaiju get gassed.
The kaiju with this yellow mustard gas.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I wrote down in my notes, they get hit with mustard gas, they're all dead, but they're not.
Yeah, I don't know. They probably should have been dead because it's like, gas is coming through the crack on the door, and all of a sudden, what do we do? Quick, open the door and let's flood the entire room with gas.
Yeah, it just does not make sense. All contact has ended up lost with the island, and the UN does everything they can to go and get contact, but except for actually going to the island, which, again, I don't understand. But we end up having reports of attacks by kaiju on different cities. So we have Rodan attacking Moscow and just wrecking everything. And I think they could have done more with that attack scene, but maybe they were afraid of busting their miniature Moscow. I mean, they did a little bit, but Rodan, knowing what Rodan can actually do with his sonic boom,
like Moscow either, because it was all white.
That's the Kremlin. They were showing the Kremlin. They just weren't showing the onion domes of St. Basil's. That's the Kremlin. They were using onion domes.
Onion domes, but they were all like everything was white.
That's the Kremlin. It's supposed to be the Kremlin inside the Kremlin walls of Moscow. But it just didn't seem like they had done. They could have done more. They could have done more with that destruction because Rodan is supposed to be able to just lay waste.
It looked more of the Lavra in.
No, because then it would have been blue. It would have been blue.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chuck. We're just talking about random crap now.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I'm just looking up. I'm just like refreshing myself with the name of all the monsters.
So everyone is absolutely shocked that Rodan would go out and attack Moscow. You would also think that Rodan would have been picked up on radar, early warning radar by the Soviets, I should say at the time.
That was another one of my notes. It was like they're attacked and say, okay, so how do they get so near the about 2/3 of the way through the film, 4 kaiju make a surprise attack on Tokyo, and it's like, how did they get that close without being detected? No radar, no sonar, no nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to bring logic and reason into into a giant monster mill or giant monster movie. So
Well, I mean, that's not impossible though. That's the thing. Like, you can build tension by saying we're detecting something coming this way. We're going to go try to stop it, and you lose contact with your scout force or whatever, and you're building up tension. This is just like, oh, so and so attacks Moscow. Let's wreck a couple buildings and then move on.
It was almost felt like it was supposed to come from the media.
I don't know. The next monster that attacks is actually Gorosaurus, who digs through the ground in Paris. They obviously didn't detect a giant monster burrowing through a very tectonically stable area, and they're completely taken by surprise.
The wrong. What they're announcing it as?
Well, they're announcing it as Baragon attacking Paris, and it's actually Gorosaurus that comes up through the ground. I actually thought that miniature set of the Arc de Triomphe was pretty good. It actually looked pretty good.
I would have to go back and look at it because I vaguely remember them saying Gorosaurus, not Baragon, in the Criterion Collection subtitles. So I have to wonder, did I just miss that, or was or did they actually fix that in the subtitles?
It's very likely they fixed it in the subtitles, but in the version that we watched, they do refer to him audibly as Baragon. Even in Japanese, it's Baragon. And we found MAGA for this movie, and it actually shows Baragon attacking Paris. It's not Gorosaurus. And that, remember, like we said earlier, it has everything to do with the fact they didn't want to use Baragon in that set because it might tear the head and ears of the suit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had like Gorosaurus was in a year earlier in King Kong Escapes in 1967. So
it was still a pretty good suit.
Yeah.
London is attacked by Manda, who is the kind of Oriental dragon-looking thing.
Kind of like a sea, like the sea dragon from or from Atragon.
Yes, Mothra attacks a train outside of Beijing, and then Godzilla attacks New York and uses his atomic breath on the UN building. So now Manhattan is radioactive slag because he has atomic breath. And they forget about all of that in all of these earlier films, except for like the first Godzilla film. And then they remember it in like the newer American stuff, like 2014's Godzilla.
Funny story. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, it's okay.
My sister and brother-in-law, my nephews, they all live out there in the Boston area, right in one of the suburbs, and I'm watching the movie, and Godzilla, just vaporizes, the majority of Boston and the surrounding areas, and I'm texting my sister, and it's like, yep, you guys are screwed.
Yep. People forget that he is radioactive waste on legs. Most of the kaiju
gamma rays.
Well, I mean, his atomic breath by itself is like an atomic bomb going off, but everywhere he walks is like it's like leaving residual radiation. It's awful. Well, anyway,
don't they actually reference that in the in the last three American-made Godzilla movies? And
yes,
if you look at in the credit sequences, you see how it's like there's something about their radiation and their feces is like turning all the areas that they pass through, like making plants grow and stuff. And
yes, they do. They try to make it like a positive thing rather than a negative. But it might be kind of like a Chernobyl exclusion zone type thing that, hey, look, plants and most small animals live such a short life anyway that cancer isn't a big deal to them. So as long as people aren't there screwing with them, generally nature takes back over fairly easily. It might be that kind of thing. Like, hey, look, humans don't want to be around the radioactivity, so now we have radioactive boars streaming out of the exclusion zone. Yeah.
Didn't they have that problem in Japan?
Yeah, I think, but it's not boars.
No, it was definitely boars.
It was boars?
Yeah. It was boars like taking over over the city by that giant nuclear reactor
at Fukushima.
Yeah.
I guess I don't remember that.
Imagine the kudzu.
The kudzu is going to be crazy there. Yeah.
And even though kudzu comes from there, it still is a very, hard to kill.
Getting off subject just a little bit, but continuing with the Fukushima thing, we had watched maybe a year ago a series on Amazon Prime called Big in Japan, and it actually follows James May, who is one of the old Top Gear guys. We absolutely love him because he is just filled with amazing information. But he one of the episodes, he actually goes to the Fukushima zone basically and tours around. He's like, I can't go to Japan without coming here and seeing the wreckage. And he's going through this abandoned city that has like overgrown grass on top of all these like just they still look like brand new cars effectively.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Wild boars are actually overrun, or they're taking over the evacuated towns, and they're interbreeding with domestic pigs.
Oh God!
So
radioactive pigs, man.
That's... Yeah. June 29th, 2021, the Fukushima disaster, tracking the wild boar takeover on the BBC.com.
Oh no! Okay, so we got radioactive boars now. That's just not good. I mean, they've been in Europe for a while now because of the exclusion zone
on 2 continents now. Wow.
We have more attacks though happening in the movie. Godzilla takes out a cruise ship because we don't want to have diarrhea cruises happening or.
No, they're polluting the ocean. So he's just like it's like nope.
That's right. Okay, then Rodan takes out a passenger plane because screw them.
What was the third thing? There was 3 of them.
That was Mothra taking out the passenger train outside of Beijing.
Oh, was it?
So we end up finally being introduced to the people that are behind all of this madness, and it is a woman in a silver like onesie, cape hood thing.
Cape hood.
Headscarf covering. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
It's got a hood.
It has a hood.
And it's all silver. Looks silver space tape like.
And I should also say that all of the aliens are women in this. And they are called the Kilak. Am I correct on that, Darlene? Kilak?
Kilax?
Kilax.
Aaks.
Now,
I had to look at how to spell it.
What's fun is, like many Japanese kaiju movies, the main characters just have information that they pull out of nowhere. Okay? And we're told that the Kilaks come from a world in between Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah, and in the subtitle version, they talk about like they're like many alien races in those asteroids, in that asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter.
Yes,
they said there was many planets between.
Yeah, they meant to say like asteroids. They're probably just translating that weird in the dub version that we watched. But yeah, it's anyway. I don't know how they know this.
Where's the space where they're on the moon and they see the space saucer on the moon with the moonlight?
Darlene's probably talking about a scene ahead, because usually when she's like, you haven't talked about this, it's usually the next scene.
Yeah, I know exactly what scene she's talking about.
And it's the next scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. So it was just, I marked it down in my notes as just an interesting use of, I mean, looking at it from a filmmaker standpoint, how would I do this? Kind of a thing. It's like, would I, do it direct on film? Would I paint a cell and just move, plug it into the optical printer, kind of a thing, film it and then put it in the optical printer and just jitter it a little bit over the background.
The saucer looked to me like they had overexposed a light source that was in the shape of a saucer, so it like overexposed and went black.
Yeah, they're trying to get like a glow effect.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. But anyway, we're told that the goal of the aliens is to build a scientific society on Earth, and it's unfortunate that many lives will be lost. So I had to pause the movie at this point, and I looked at you, Darlene, and I said, they're wanting to build a scientific society, and they're telling a people about this via television, talking to a society that has daily trips to the moon, that they don't have a scientific society.
My thought on this one was that I was still so in shock from going from one thing on Earth to this on the moon.
Yeah.
And getting there that fast.
Jarring.
So,
And that's why I was starting to ask it, because I have this thing going, jarring jump.
oh yeah, this is on the moon, Darlene. This is on the moon. And where we learn this. And then one astronaut, and I think it's the captain of the SY-3, lunges at the Keelak Queen, and it looks like he's actually going to grab her breasts.
Yes, the breast grabbing.
Yeah,
and she has a force shield on her.
She has booby protectors. And there's like a force field that repulses him along with bullets, and she smirks. It really does look like he's going right for her breasts.
Oh, how different college would be if that was in widespread use.
That's right. A gunfight erupts between the astronauts and the possessed base personnel. Okay. And does anyone get killed, Darlene? No. There's no point. There's no point to this gunfight. The astronauts get into their rocket and escape, but they're captured by the aliens again after at the facility that is on Monsterland. And is this where the captured leader commits suicide?
Well, he was. Yeah, that was the scientist I was talking about earlier.
That's back on Earth, though.
That's back on Earth.
Yeah, the scientist. Okay, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah. That they were able to capture him, but they weren't able to get the girl that was on the moon base, I'm sorry, on Monster Island, or Monsterland, and they're trying to interrogate him. And then that's where they started making the comment. It's about you can either talk to us or you can talk to the UN secret police, kind of a thing. They break for a smoke, and he jumps out a window. In the Criterion collection, they mention how he survived because he he jumped out of a 3-4 story building, but he lands face down, body flop on sand. So, but they mentioned that he survived. So
that wasn't clear in the dubbed version that we watched.
Because
he turned into a dummy. He turned into a mannequin, a store mannequin, when he jumped out of the window.
It looked more like an inflatable doll, and
how you thought it was a sex doll?
Floated down.
Yeah, but it was a mannequin. It was a mannequin.
And it definitely looked like one.
And it would have been better if they just took him from the window and then all of a sudden saw him on the ground.
Like they ran up to the window.
They didn't need the dummy.
Yeah, but I was impressed that when they threw however they did it, when they threw the dummy there, the dummy just kind of it never twisted or rotated or anything like that. It just went straight down.
Yeah, they put weights in it or something at
it really still looked like a inflatable doll.
And then we get into another firefight with the UN Special Police, I guess, versus the aliens, like the possessed crew.
I don't. You're looking at me. I'm not good about this one.
In that first main gunfight, when they were are on the moon, I remember it being pretty vicious for a G-rated film, because one guy got hit right got hit right in that between the eyes.
That's right. One person did get killed.
You see one guy get clipped in the arm, and then one guy just gets right between gets a like a little bit of red paint, right between his eyes. It's like a quick clip, clip to there or cut to there, and it's like, boy, this is G-rated, huh?
Yeah, no, I do remember that. You're right. There was a guy killed in that first gunfight, right between the eyes. And here's where I think that this guy did not survive his dummy fall into the sand. They're doing an autopsy on a body, and that's supposed to be his body, and they pulled that control device out from behind his ear.
Yeah, I only mention it because they specifically state in the subtitles that he's still alive. Be careful, or as you're moving him, we got to get him out of here, kind of.
That's fair. That's fair.
So whether he was still alive, I mean, I honestly don't remember if he was in the rest of the film after that.
Mm-hmm. So this is where we again are people find out things again. There's a little bit of explanation on this, a little bit.
I don't know how she just walks through Tokyo either.
Oh yeah, she's one of the most wanted people on the planet. But we end up finding out that there's a plan to jam signals, because they find these signal transmitters hidden in rocks and coconuts and like
all over the world.
All over the world.
All over the world. And they all have a range of 2,000 kilometers. And that's basically how they're controlling the kaiju. Now, there's a logical issue in this. And I'll let Chuck talk first, because you side, and I bet you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or if you don't, you don't. But
logical issue. I'm still struggling with the concept of like logic in a Godzilla film.
Okay, so we're actually shown a map of where all these things are, where like the transmitters are.
Yep.
That they found. The kaiju have to move outside of those control zones to go where they were going.
Exactly.
So they're no longer under control once they're outside of those bubbles. Mm-hmm. And then we're actually even shown that all of the UN Science Council or whatever has found all of them and brought them back to Tokyo, but the kaiju aren't all near Tokyo, so none of them are under control anymore. Again.
Where's logic in a kaiju?
This is like they're setting it up that this is what's controlling the kaiju, and then they're totally ignoring the fact that they've already solved the problem. We already
said plot in big old quotation marks.
They could have put all these coconuts that have transmitters in them.
They wanted an underground station. They wanted a Monster Island.
Monsterland.
They wanted space.
They could have put all of these
aliens.
They could have put all of these coconuts in SY3 and launched them and then deposited them in like the sun. And the freaking Kilax, they're done. Their whole plan to conquer the Earth and turn it into a scientific society would be thwarted.
I don't understand what kind of science project, unless they thought to make us the science project.
Well, maybe Kilax needs men.
Because there's only
entirely
girls.
Possible. Entirely possible.
But they're not. But they're
devil
Horda.
They are Horda, but this is Japan. And I'm looking at Darlene with eyes.
Okay, Aaron, I was looking at there. We're not going there. We're not going there. We're not going there.
I was looking at the scenes where they actually found the devices, and it's like some strange metal that we've never encountered before, and they've cracked them open. And I'm looking at the rock outside and the metal inside. I'm just thinking geodes and magma.
That's right. It's just they've been here for the I don't know. So Rodan comes in to attack Tokyo. Godzilla comes ashore. Manda arrives. The Japanese Self-Defense Force deploys, and fireworks begin lighting up the monsters. And these are the scenes that I actually like. All the monster scenes are really, really well done. I love it when the Japanese Self-Defense Force comes out with all of the Chinese-made fireworks and Tamiya models. I absolutely adore it. Mothra arrives and starts wrecking crap. It's apocalyptic. That's what I wrote down. And there's like one really cool shot like that pans across Tokyo where there's all these like ruined buildings with like rebar holding pieces of concrete still. Like I thought that was really well done. Really well done. So we're shown that this lady that's under control of the aliens is walking just around Tokyo willy-nilly, right?
With monsters going.
Yep.
Did you also notice that it's 1999 and she's on a subway or on a train, I believe it was a subway, and she has like a little portable communicator TV kind of thing going on with like a video screen and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think there's lots of little cool touches that they are trying to like make it the future.
Yeah.
The
world of tomorrow.
The world of tomorrow. And the dialogue was done in such a way as when they were talking at the beginning of the film back and forth to the moon, that you could almost believe that there was a time delay in that. It wasn't exact, but the way that they had done it, it actually looked like there was a time delay. I'm giving the movie maybe more credit than it deserves, but there are some world of tomorrow kind of things in here. So we end up having this big battle. We have this lady that just walks into the command center, the UN command center in Tokyo, and she says that all humanity must surrender. The captain of the SY3 rocket is there, and basically her control device isn't even implanted. It's in an earring.
Yes, and that's his girlfriend that he
was talking to earlier in the movie.
Yes.
Right?
And then thoroughly started manhandling.
Yes.
I mean, he tears one of her earrings off, and you can see like they do like the fake blood on there, and then he gingerly takes the other one off. And
yes, and he actually like I don't know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they just put the control device on an easily detachable thing like when they implanted it in the other guy, right? Like it would make sense they implanted it in everybody. But anyway, she basically goes from a halfway interesting foil at this point. Like while she's under control, she's kind of interesting. Then she becomes like a piece of the scenery.
Scream Queen.
Yeah, she's just kind of
or Scream Queen, or
she's not even there. She's just like a zombie in the background.
Yeah, she screams a little bit, but she's just a part of the set after that, which is
she did have some or some lines in the in the film after that, but it just wasn't anything really nothing really that I could think of that moved the plot forward. So
yeah,
it's almost like, okay, we've gotten her to this point. She's a MacGuffin from here on out.
We end up having Anguirus arrive, and he turns the tide of the battle against the Japanese self-defense force when Godzilla is attacking. Remember, like Anguirus arrives, Darlene, and Anguirus is like Darlene's favorite kaiju because he's effectively indestructible. Like
it's because when we played the game of
it was like the PlayStation 2 Godzilla game. You just loved rolling around with Anguirus as like a ball
and
of spikes.
Beat Aaron's butt with him.
Yeah.
Is that the one that they also had on the Xbox, Destroy All Monsters, where it was like the kaiju fighting game where they'd pit like two kaiju against each other while the aliens are the alien meta plot, you know?
Yeah, that's the one. That was a fun game too.
You know, I used to have an Xbox, like one of the original Xboxes with the defective loose plug, and I kept it around just because like once a year I got the urge to play that game, and that's the only reason why I had the Xbox, just to keep that, just to play that one game.
It was a good game. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So Anguirus arrives and beats the crap out of the self-defense force because it's Anguirus. And if you don't know who Anguirus is, he's like an armadillo-looking thing that has
kind of like a reptile armadillo. Yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be kind of like a ankylosaur-ish type dinosaur mutant thing. I don't know.
Chuck, I gotta ask you, in this one, the tail doesn't have the big knobby thing on the back.
Honestly, I don't think in any of the versions of Anguirus that he always had like the snake tail with spikes on it, but he didn't have like the knob at the back.
Yeah, see, I'm going to go through and actually like show Darlene as we're on the.
Well,
I'm assuming that's what your question was. I'm sorry.
Yes.
No knob on the back. That's first generation Anguirus.
But I thought when we were playing the game, he did.
I'm not aware, Darlene. Second generation Anguirus, no knob on the back. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna spend so much time on this, but
I believe that he didn't. Oh, there.
No, it's not a ball. It's just spikes.
It's just spikes. Okay. Maybe
right.
that's what it was.
And that was concept art for Final Wars. And Final Wars, he's actually pretty badass in that too. But he just has spikes on the back of his tail.
It's spikes on the back of the tail.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. It's been a long time since we played that game, so.
Yes. So he turns the tide of the battle, and Rodan chases down SY3. Our heroes end up. I have it described as our heroes enter the Earth's rectum, thinking it is an entrance to a secret alien base. And so I guess there's a hole in the side of Earth somewhere.
There was a.
They do that on the moon too, though. They land in the moon's rectum to fight the aliens on their base.
Your mind is bad.
I'm trying to entertain myself while watching this movie.
Just to take you guys out into left field a little bit here. I'm on I'm looking at a YouTube video from Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee from the Xbox, and you can see Anguirus fighting Megalon, and he definitely has the long lizard-like, snake-like tail with just like single spikes on the top. So.
Nope, yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's the Final Wars one that there's just a cluster of spikes at the back, but it's not a knob. Anyway, Where was I? So we have.
You're talking about sphincters on the on sides of mountains and
that
on
they
the
go
moon.
into.
Yeah, so we have SY3 basically goes back to the moon. They figure out they have to build a control device themselves to take control of the monsters. They go to the moon because they want to take out like this master control system that's on the moon, because that's where the Kilax have their primary base. They land and are attacked with flamethrowers by the Kilax, or the Kilax self defense stuff.
They get. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's when
fire
you land.
in
Yeah,
space on the moon.
no, yeah, it's when the rocket lands. Remember, like they land in like a shuttle bay, right?
Hmm.
And then like there's this defense system inside the shuttle bay where it's just fire hitting the rocket and it's heating
Oh,
it up.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, screw it. It's just like superheated plasma or something like that.
Yeah. It actually looked good. It's like, what the hell's going on? But that actually looked good. Again, everything with models in this movie is fantastic. So they jump out. They go out in this ground car that's equipped with the lightning guns from the maser cannons on Earth. Again, cool effects. And they blow through all the alien shielding. They enter the broken base as it shuts down, and it goes from like super colorful and lit up to being like gray and dead.
Yes, it did.
I thought that was interesting.
And you see the women go into being. They actually
slugs.
take the one of the rocks back.
Yeah.
That was actually another inconsistency there that I wondered about. In the English subtitle version, they're talking about how the Kilax can only survive in high temperatures.
Yes.
But yet these remote controlled humans that they've captured are just standing around with them with no problems, and it's like, okay, they have their base at Mount Fuji because of the high temperatures, and how are these people surviving?
It was heated because when they came through, they told you that the atmosphere made it colder, and that's why they died.
Yes, but there's unshielded, unchanged humans right next to them.
Yeah. That's my point. It's like, how are these people alive?
It doesn't make sense. It does not matter. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I couldn't, because I thought of that as well. Yeah. Anyway, so they end up cutting out this control device, and this is where we learned that at the very least, all these moon rocket systems have no fuses. That they'll just send enough power through their plugs, through their wires, to just set fire to themselves before burning out. Like they're gonna burn out their maser cannon.
See, I kind of assumed that it was one of those things where the maser cannons were attached to some sort of power inverter, and it was drawing power from the ship, and it just it was just overheating.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I agree that probably is what was happening. It's just that you would think there would be some sort of safety to stop the entire system from catching fire. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if the entire thing was built by the government and they were subcontracting out to the lowest bidder.
Fair enough. So we end up having like the monsters are now not under control of the Kilax. We know that the Kilax are at Mount Fuji for some reason. We know. And all the monsters end up showing up to fight, and we're reintroduced to all the monsters in this film. And Godzilla pumps him up with like a monster speech. He's like, screaming and pumping his fist, and the other monsters are roaring and doing their thing. And we see whatever Mr. Jumpy, the what's his name? Damn it,
was it Varian or Varan?
Varan, like jumping up in the background because they don't want to show him close up because the suit was wrecked. And we end up having like this big battle because this is where King Ghidorah shows up. I always say King Ghidorah. I always say King Ghidorah, but isn't it just Ghidorah?
Well, there's been several variations. There's been Ghidorah. There's been King Ghidorah. It really depends. Or depends
this
on the
one
movie.
Was
in the Mothra relaunch films in the 90s. They refer to him as King Ghidorah, and he becomes like a. They give him like 4 legs instead of 2, along with 3 heads and his wings. So
okay,
it's one of those. It's like I never really It's like, oh, Ghidorah, okay,
This one had 2 legs, 2
Mhm.
wings,
2
Yep.
tails.
2 tails, 3 heads.
Yeah.
Yep, they're the classic one.
And they had problems with the suit, if I remember correctly, from the behind the scenes stuff with this, because the suit had to be patched from the last film.
Yep.
And the actor in it was not used to being in King Ghidorah and working on wires. And this is also likely why Mothra was not in moth form during this movie, because there were already 2 flying monsters, like Rodan and Ghidorah. But it's the guy, like, there's one shot where Ghidorah lands and it cuts away very quickly because it's the only shot they really got, because I guess this guy, when he hit the ground hard. And he basically just fell right over.
You can actually see that he hits the ground
real hard. Yeah.
I like my guy attacking.
Oh, well, yeah. Anguirus goes in at King Ghidorah hard, and you actually get blood drawn. Like, again, that's a rare thing in these movies, beyond like a couple of them and the newer movies, that in general you don't see the monsters bleeding. But when Anguirus rips into King Ghidorah is bleeding. He's bleeding out. That was pretty cool. So we're almost at the end of the movie. I'm going through the last of my notes.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, I can see why they would have like left, or Mothra in larval form, just for the simplicity. I mean, you've got 11 monsters that you got to fit into this film. Manda, it doesn't. He's more of a puppet. I mean, you can't fit it per person in there. And they did a spectacular job of working with him as he's back in Beijing, and he's like, or was it Tokyo, where he's snaking around the train tracks.
Tokyo.
It's in Tokyo, yeah.
Yeah, in Tokyo. So I personally, if I have to you hold my feet to the fire and make a guess about it, I'm willing to bet it was production budget issues. It was okay.
Yeah.
We can either do wire work for a Mothra, or we can have 3 guys in a suit doing the Mothra or Caterpillar. Which you're in pre-production. You're trying to spec this out. It's like which one would you choose?
There was nobody in
Mothra. Yeah, Mothra there was no actors in the suit. It was all mechanical. In this film.
In this film.
Yeah,
yes.
In this film only. Yeah.
Okay. Because in the earlier films, it was a guy in a suit.
Yes, you're right, but not in this one. I would have actually, if I had to, I would have replaced Rodan with an actual Mothra. But that's me.
But
I know
people liked Rodan.
Everyone loves Rodan too. So I mean,
and Mothra female, the Mothra, without having the twins, is kind of like.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, Darlene.
And then they threw in the stock footage of the spider thing, which puts in a
well, he's actually there, though. The spider's actually there. Is that Kumanga?
Yes, but that's stock footage.
But he's there at the end of the battle.
There is some of it that is stock footage. In Tsuburaya's book, they actually do or put a photograph there with Ashira Hondo and Tsuburaya, and you can easily see that there's Varen in the background, there's Baragon, there's Kumanga, Rodan. Pretty much, or almost all of them are in this one, or in this photograph. So, because they've actually got this is on page 170 and 171 for anyone who's actually got the book Eiji Tsuburaya, Master of Monsters, and they do show like a prayer production, a couple of production shots here with all the monsters.
Because I remember them they're both like Mothra and him are shooting silk all over King Ghidorah after King Ghidorah got boot stomped by everybody. Like,
it's like where what else could they have thrown? They kind of threw poor old King Ghidorah to the wolves here.
Yeah, that's where I would have said look, replace Rodan with Mothra and have Rodan as an ally to King Ghidorah, like one of the newer American movies. That Rodan's kind of a bad dude. and then have him turn at the end and kind of go, okay, no, wait, I'm not gonna get boot stomped like King Ghidorah. Mothra has me pinned down or something like that, and that's where Rodan turns belly up and says, nope, I'm not going to fight anymore, and he survives, but King Ghidorah still gets boot stomped. It's just much more of a fight.
And what did you think of the little baby Godzilla doing that
Smoke ring?
Smoke ring. He really needs to stop smoking.
What, Manila? Yeah.
Yeah, the last kill of King Ghidorah.
Yeah, where he puts like the smoke ring around one of King Ghidorah's necks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have the fire dragon that comes out.
Yes, but that's after Godzilla's boot stamps the
boot stomps. Yeah.
The
King Ghidorah. Oh, and that's where he like uses his breath on the
base.
The underground base, and it turns out the atomic breath doesn't work. So Godzilla just kind of shrugs and then just kicks the hell out of it. And it breaks open, and he's like, okay.
I had to mention that one. That was funny.
That was great. Yeah, he's just like, okay.
Okay, it won't work, so I'll kick it like it's an egg or something.
And it worked. That worked.
That carries through with with Pacific Rim. It's like machine guns and rockets and stuff like that aren't really working on these kaiju. So hey, let's just go back to the physical attacks.
Yep, exactly. But we have the fire dragon attacking SY3, and this is where, like we were kind of hinting at earlier, this would have made a whole hell of a lot of sense if this was actually the cameo by Gamera, because it looks a lot like the special effect that Gamera has when he's flying through the air with his rocket legs.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yeah. When he's spinning around.
Yep, exactly. And he attacks the SY3, and it turns out it's not really a kaiju. It's kind of built up to be another kaiju, like a brand new one. But it's not. It's a flying saucer that like just augers in at the end, and it's done.
Well, there are actually some funny little or not too subtle pokes at Gamera, because you've got when the fire dragon, they called it or shows up, the girl says, a flaming monster, have you ever heard of such a thing? So it's like, oh, okay, I see what you did there.
I wish there was. I mean, it's obviously two different studios, but there desperately needs to be a Gamera Godzilla crossover.
I'd be very interested to see who owns the rights to Gamera at this point, because I thought, again, don't quote me on this, I thought the original company went bankrupt and and got bought out by another studio or another company. So,
but it's not Toho.
Toho, no, definitely not. So
we're then told that all the monsters go back to Monsterland, and they're very happy, and Godzilla and Manila wave to the camera, and the world is safe. The end.
Yeah.
Or is it? Dun dun dun. All right.
Yeah,
so go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead.
Dead air.
No. Yeah.
No. The question I had, you guys talked about how the Mothra in this was remote control or mechanical.
Yeah, it was mechanical. It was automated. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that in the? You were watching this on DVD, right?
Yes, Blu-ray.
Okay. Was it in like a special featurette or something like that?
It was actually on a production thing that I read it. It was on I forget exactly where I read it, but it was somewhere. Yeah, that it was based on what they were doing to get all of these monsters together. That's how I read that like Baragon was super fragile because he had been reused on like Ultraman a dozen times.
Yeah, send me a link to that if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
I would love to read that, because for the longest time, I've always thought that our Mothra was just remote controlled, and then I read in the Super Aya book about the different instances where they had him or like actual men operating this super heavy caterpillar puppet, and it's like, okay, was I wrong about some of those? So
I mean, most of the movies where Mothra is an actual like big part of it, it is a person in a suit.
This one they were running out of people.
Yeah, because the only actors that they had somebody in as Godzilla, that was Nakajima. They had a person playing Anguirus, and Gorosaurus, the same person, and that was Hiroshi Sakita. There was a guy in the Rodan suit who is Aragaki, the guy that's in King Ghidorah, and a guy in Manila.
There was a person in Anguirus too.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, there was Sadaki Watanabe.
Yeah, he did like an uncredited Anguirus thing, but yeah, it was nobody in the Mothra larva.
Did you notice that when they did the gathering at Mount Fuji, they showed like all the monsters, like including Manda and Veron and Baragon, and then from all the scenes after that, at least Baragon, I would have to check more about Manda, but Baragon and Veron were definitely not in any scene after that.
They're there, but just very in the background. They are there, just not close to the camera because they didn't want to
Right.
show them. The costumes were just screwed up too badly.
Yeah, they just didn't get the screen time after that.
Exactly, you are correct on that.
So,
So what worked in this movie, I'll even say with the screwed up costumes, the low budget on trying to remake the costumes, I think the kaiju costumes are fantastic.
The modeling
is 10 out of 10. Like, yeah, it looks like models, and that's what I expect coming into a Japanese film. I am not expecting 2001: A Space Odyssey, not from Toho in 1968. I'm not.
I love the animation in it with like the flying saucers and the space the fire dragon animation.
Yeah.
Again, that was one of those that's like, how did you do that? It's like there are like several different ways that they could have done it, but it would be really fun to find out exactly how they did the initial animation that they used to composite onto that scene.
Yes, I think that would be very cool. I think the maser beam effect, it seems to me like it was hand drawn.
Yeah, it looked like it was one of those, either they painted it directly on film, or they did it, or they could have like, done, well, like with the flying saucer, they could have done like rotoscoping a model or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And just painted it onto a cell and then composite it over or over the film stock with the optical printer after filming the cell, because there did appear to be some variation in the in the maser beams. So it wasn't like just like one picture kind of a thing.
Yeah,
it had
absolutely.
a really nice glow effect.
It reminded me of Forbidden Planet when they were firing their handguns, the hand beams.
Yeah.
I liked that. I thought it was well shot. Like the entire film was fairly, it was in focus. I think it worked. Like it's actually a pretty movie to watch.
Oh, like I said, the HD Criterion collection, the picture quality is just superb. You're looking at Gorosaurus and seeing all the beautiful work that they did on his scales.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, I have it on Blu-ray. I don't have the Criterion collection though, which might be different. I do want to get the Criterion collection version of this because I am sure it is different. That being said, like, is there anything else that we should mention as this is good in this movie?
Well, I already said that the paintings, the matte paintings.
Oh God, the Mount Fuji matte painting is,
and it's not just that either.
Yeah,
it's other ones like the moon and
beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
And I gotta say the dialogue, for the most part, in the English subtitle version was actually pretty good. There wasn't a lot of campiness to it. A lot of the dialogue seemed to have a purpose.
Okay.
So
I
don't know what the English dub was like. But
the English dub, there are characters that have hillbilly Southern accents. Some of them, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Remember the guy, like the security guy that's out there going, is that Rodan flying over? Nope. That's SWA-3. I sure know that. My son's on that. It's, oh my God.
There's actually an Japanese animation called Azumanga Daioh, and one of the girls is from Osaka, and in the English dub, they give her a kind of a hillbilly Southern accent, because the other girls, consider her, coming from Osaka, they consider her a hick. So that's, I don't know if that's like a Japanese cultural thing, how they view people from Osaka, or if it's just like the closest approximation that they could come to it. So, but it's interesting to see it just showing up in films in modern day, in modern day English dubs.
So what I think does not work in this movie is the plot. We've already said that. Like, the plot is real scattershot.
That and I got to go back to what Darlene said at the beginning of this podcast. The lack of kaiju in this film up until the very end is really, I mean, 8 or 9-year-old me, 10-year-old me would have been pissed. So
yeah, it is pretty light. It's not as light as some of the other kaiju films. Honestly, there are kaiju films that have less kaiju in them. The first not the first, but the first recent American Godzilla film, with the Mutos, actually has far less than this in it.
The one I can't watch because of the Georgia
jumpy cam, and it's so dark. Yeah.
That's the one I walked out of. Chuck was with us on that one when we went in there. I had to walk out of the theater.
Yeah, when you're getting like motion sickness.
Yes.
Yeah. But that has less kaiju action than this movie, believe it or not. Regardless, the plot is just so scattershot. There are ideas in this that could have worked as a focus for a movie, but there's like 14 of them in this, and they're all kind of vying for
the same showing.
Yeah.
You don't need an underwater research facility with a monster land, with a
alien invasion,
with a moon base, with a United Nations spy
thriller type thing. Yeah.
There's too much going on, and it could have all been just take one of them.
This is the first kaiju film I think that I've had to pause while taking notes.
You did it 4 times.
There was so much happening all at once with different plots like interacting with each other that I was like, oh, I gotta pause and catch up. And here I write like a half a page in my notes, and none of it makes sense.
See, I would like to see a comparison of, the Showa period, the film that Destroy All Monsters, and compare that to the millennial period of Godzilla Final Wars, because you're looking at pretty much similar concepts in each films, and you're packing in as many monsters as you possibly can.
Yes, but Final Wars, there's actual monster stuff happening in it.
Oh, there's a lot of monster stuff happening in it.
And you're not having just the monsters doing something stupid.
No, the stupid stuff was the little Power Ranger alien fights.
Yes, but I mean, at least they were trying something that was different.
Yeah.
And that's fair. So, I mean, I'm not going to say anything bad about the acting. I don't think any of it stood out, but none of it really failed here.
Yeah, I didn't see any actor in Destroy All Monsters that I felt that they were just phoning it in. It just seemed like, I got the sense that, okay, this is the last one of these, we're going to do it, or that we're going to do, let's just, let's do it kind of a thing, as opposed to, okay, it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
There seemed to be like, I don't want to say like a reverence for the film, but it just seemed they were cognizant that at the time this was going to be the last Godzilla film, so.
Let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, I guess from an actor standpoint, more of a, let's just take it a little more seriously than I normally would, because this is a Godzilla film.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
okay, fair enough.
So,
anything?
No, the plot. Oh God, who knows?
Yeah, and I don't want to rag on the film any more than I have about the plot, because it is bad. Is there anything that we can learn from this movie?
I thought it was just a really solid popcorn film. You sit there and just enjoy it for what it is.
That's fine.
I think you could take that, not to put too many things going in too many directions, especially just at the beginning of a movie.
Yeah, that's what I would say I can take away from this. Like, if you just took one plot line out of this movie, it would have made it better. And whichever one, choose one. Like, one little plot hook. Just take it out and use the however many minutes that frees up, like let's say 6 or 7 minutes, to shore up the other plots. It probably would have done a whole lot better. But that being said, Chuck, you're right. It's a popcorn film. It's fun. It's not awful, right?
Yeah, yeah. I look at the opening sequences where they're talking about the underwater base and Monsterland and the moon base and stuff like that as almost more of we're going to be setting the time period, setting the stage for the time period that they're in. And even they talk about it in the Subaraya book, how the moon itself, when they were designing it, even though Kubrick was working on 2001 at during this period of time. They were trying to make the moon be an actual more than a setting. That
Mm-hmm.
it was designed to look more vicious, more dangerous. So
Yes. Okay. Well, do we recommend this film?
oh, absolutely.
I
Okay.
like it.
You like it?
I like it, but if you want to just see the the monster fight, that's fine too.
Yeah,
That's in the go to the last 15 minutes, I think.
yeah. You know what? I'm going to recommend it, but it's a light recommendation, just
Yes.
because I really like some meat in my movie as plot. I really want plot, and I don't get it from this because it's really confused. But that being said, what there is here is fun.
See, what I wanted to do when I finished this film was to go back and count out all the screen time that the kaiju were on screen, and
Mhm.
then go back to the other previous films in the Showa period and see how much kaiju time was on those films, and to see where this stacked up.
I think it was 36, wasn't it, or something like that.
No,
Somebody
I
actually
had
done
seen it.
that. Somebody's done that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to see if I can actually
To the internet.
to the internet. That's right. I am going to. Oh no, let's see here.
It was just a minor point. If you we can do that later.
Oh no,
if
I
you
think
want.
I can actually bring it up fairly quickly here.
But strangely enough, not as quickly as you were able to find the website that allowed us to map out nuclear bomb yields on cities.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, boy, let's see here. I have King Kong versus Godzilla has a total of 12 minutes. Let me see if I can find. Godzilla Raids Again has a total of 12 minutes 52 seconds. Godzilla has
20.
no, Godzilla's on screen for 8 minutes
Oh, there's
44
where it is.
seconds. Yeah, it's I'd have to go through all of it and actually like try to find there's Destroy All Monsters. Let's see here. Destroy All Monsters total screen time is 23 minutes 10 seconds.
Of all the monsters
Of
together.
all the monsters together. Yeah, 23 minutes.
There we go. Godzilla franchise screen time rundown on the TokyoKingdom.com forum.
Oh, well, maybe you'll have it better than me.
Okay, Godzilla 58, 8.45 or 8 minutes 45 seconds out of 96 minutes. Godzilla Raids Again, 9 minutes 30 seconds. King Kong versus Godzilla, 9 minutes 15 seconds. Mothra versus Godzilla, 10 minutes 30 seconds. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, 8 minutes out of 93 minutes. Wow. But not as bad as Monster Zero, which was 5 minutes 45 seconds out of 94 minutes. Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, 13 minutes. Son of Godzilla, 12 minutes. There we go. Destroy All Monsters, 8 minutes 30 seconds out of 89 minutes.
Yeah, 8 minutes. That's what I'm seeing here. Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, and as according to the post that was made by Tyrant Lizard King, credit for the Godzilla screen time and percentages goes to Mr. Schmeigel.
Okay. Well.
So, but yeah, it looks as you go down, you skip over Godzilla's Revenge, which was 8 minutes 15 seconds, and you get into the or the next period. I believe that's the Heisei period. Is that the Heisei period? Godzilla film errors. Yeah, the Heisei period, where we're going into like Godzilla versus Ghidorah, Godzilla versus Gigan, and Megalon. That looks like they're really starting to pump some of the time into those. Return of Godzilla was 19 minutes. Terror of Mechagodzilla down to like 9.5 minutes. But Godzilla versus Gigan and Godzilla versus Ghidorah, those seem to be the two big winners with like 16 minutes 15 seconds and 20 minutes 30 seconds respectively. The
percentage of screen time compared to the movie length, number one is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's 25% of the movie. Wow. So that's 26 minutes.
But I gotta ask, when they're doing that calculation, are you also counting the time where they're just like running around fighting in the hangar where Mechagodzilla is?
Yeah, probably.
So,
who knows? Well, anyway, we both we all recommend it. We all recommend it. Me lightly, but I do recommend it.
You got to take it with a grain of popcorn, I guess you'd say.
Sure. So yeah, we recommend it. So enjoy. Is that all we're going to say then?
Well, that's pretty much all I have. Thank you everybody for inviting me back. I appreciate it.
Okay, so you're Chuck, right?
Yep.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene. Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.